you definitely have to be prepared to be rejected. It's going to be somewhat miraculous if you write a book and submit it and you're accepted. That is not going to happen.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Why Bother, the podcast where we explore why creative people bother doing things the hard way. I'm here with our guest, Ron Corbett from Ottawa Press and Publishing.
Hi, Gareth.
Thanks for joining us.
Very glad to be here.
I'm your host, Gareth Davies from
I decided to bother.
Yeah, you bothered with us.
I did.
Thank goodness you're here. And as you might be able to tell, Ron, he's got that radio voice. He actually did have his own radio show at one point. We're going to go through that. He's now the owner of his own Ottawa Press and Publishing company, but he is a author of 7 and counting books. I hope I got that number right.
It's something around there.
Yeah.
We'll count them up later. But
he stopped counting. Yeah. We've got a couple of his books here. If you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see those in front of us. We do carry Ron's work at Maker House. Some of his bestsellers like Best Hikes of Ottawa, Gatineau here I'm pointing at. And if you're listening, you can also find these in the link below on Spotify or wherever you're listening. And the other book, that's called Spanning Time, Bridges of Ottawa, Gatineau. We have the Ottawa Rewind series at Maker House. So many great books. Thank you for bringing those to life.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. Ottawa Press and Publishing, that's the name of the company. We're a local publisher. And you've been a supporter of the company from day one for us. I don't know if you'd been around, how long you'd been around. You'd been around a couple of years, I guess, before we had started, but you were around with our first book, the very first Lost Ottawa book. I remember it well. So thank you. It's the reason I'm here, Gareth, is because you have been a great supporter of the company from our first book. So.
Awesome. Well, happy to hear that. It's a win-win for us to bring in locally written, locally published books and working with a professional like yourself who's been in this industry a long time. I've learned a lot about publishing, and now we get to actually share some of that background with our listeners. Yeah. So we're going to start with a bit more of like a light, rapid fire, bother, not bother, to get to know you a bit personally. Right. Okay. So we obviously call this
Bother or Not Bother.
Rapid fire. Listening to podcasts.
As Ron decides right now how truthful to be. I don't listen to, I'm not bothered. Truthful right out the gate. I'm sorry. If I listen to this podcast later, it may be the second or third podcast I've ever listened to.
Okay. All right. What about cycling?
Bother.
Yeah, you like to get on the bike?
Yeah, Ottawa's a great city for cycling, and it has been since I can remember. It's one of the great things about Ottawa. Absolutely.
What about hiking? You said you cycle.
Oh, definitely bother. Big bother.
Well, you wrote a book about it too.
We published a book about it. Yes.
Yeah. Gardening.
If I'm doing it. Yeah. Not bother.
Not
bother.
You like to eat?
I like to look at it. Yeah. Is that a look or toil question?
That's a toil question.
Not bother.
What about eating cilantro?
I love cilantro. Bother. Yes.
Okay.
I love cilantro.
Okay, good. That's hit or miss. So what about reading ebooks?
Bother.
Digital ebooks?
Yeah. Okay. Bother.
I wasn't sure because you obviously,
bother.
Publishing traditional material here.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Being punctual.
Not bother. One of my pet peeves, not bother. Do you know, people that like being punctual are under the impression that early is punctual. If you show up on time, punctual people think you're late. Yeah. Check it out. If you have an 11 o'clock appointment, show up at 11 o'clock, and punctual people have their heads exploding, right? They think, I'm on time, but anyway, it's an overrated virtue. Come on.
All right. Now I want to know about getting into Ottawa Press and Publishing. You had a journey as a creative writer and a radio host. And so you've been in the industry a long time, but starting your own publishing company is a whole other ball of wax.
Yeah. It's a different thing. Why did we start the company?
Yeah, so it's a whole other challenge to start your own publishing company and all the work that comes with that and the overhead. Why did you bother to start Ottawa Press and Publishing?
Well, there's a few reasons. I was looking for work. You've gone through the career, and it's absolutely true. I had just been laid off. The Sun just went through a round of layoffs. So let's get right to the let's be truthful.
So for people listening, you were writing for Ottawa Sun, Ottawa Citizen.
I'd worked for both the Citizen and the Sun.
Yeah.
I'd also had a radio show on CFRA.
Yeah, called Unscripted if people want to check that out. Yeah.
Okay. 2017 was when we started the company. This was what happened. So in 2017, there was a round of layoffs at the Sun. I was writing a column for the Sun at the time, lost a job. Not having a job is a great motivator.
Yeah.
for looking for things. And one of the best ideas I had at the time, I thought it turned out to be not too bad. I wrote a book called The Last Guide. Penguin published it. Was 20 years ago now. They published it in 2000, The Last Guide.
Yeah.
Some people listening may know about it. CBC did
Algonquin Park.
Algonquin Park. It was a story on this fellow, Frank Yakabuski was his name. He was a Polish gentleman. And he was a full-time fishing guide in Algonquin Park, a job he started when he was 8 years old. And it was the only job he ever had. Imagine, fishing guide is the only job you've ever had.
8 years old to 80
He was 65 when I met him.
Yeah,
he was 65 when I met him. Only job he ever had. He used to work at the fishing lodges. Used to be many lodges in Algonquin Park. They all shut down, but he had clients. He kept going. He kept doing it. So we wrote a story in the Citizen. Story, just people love the story. And it ended up being a book. Long story short, Penguin published it. Very popular book. 2017, looking for work, I wrote a sequel to the book called The Last Guide's Guide. I couldn't find anybody to publish it. Penguin, the original publisher, had no interest in it. Nobody outside of Ottawa had any interest in it. So it was one of those situations, if you wanted to do it, I had to do it myself.
Self-publish.
So, but I didn't want to self-publish. I wanted to get it into chapters, right? Okay. So how do you get into chapters? You need a publishing company to get it into chapters.
Right.
So I started a publishing company with the sole intent of getting the book into chapters, which is how it started. So The Last Guide's Guide was a book that I wrote. It got into chapters. The book did well. So I thought, well, I've got a publishing company now. I should do another one.
Yeah.
The next book. So I guess
got
it's
some
not true.
momentum there with Frank.
So I guess it's not true. You had the second book. The second book was Lost Ottawa. Right. David McGee, I'd had on the radio show. He'd been a regular guest on the radio show. It was a Facebook page, which is now defunct. He shut it all down, which is a shame. But
I was a follower of Lost Ottawa Facebook page.
He had a lot of followers. Yeah. So anyway, we did a Lost Ottawa book, and that book just exploded, if you remember that.
Such a cool concept.
It was.
The thing that stood out from that book was the fact it started on Facebook, and you pulled posts, and you even wrote like how many comments and likes were on each post. So you basically pulled the most popular content from a Facebook group and made it into a physical book. It's backwards from where things are headed, but that was the appeal.
That was the appeal, and it continues to be the business model to a certain degree, Gareth. This book right here, Vicky Lanthier,
Best Hikes book for Ottawa Gatineau,
Girl Gone Good is her Facebook page.
Right.
So we've done that now with Andrew, with Ottawa Rewind.
Yep.
We've done
Andrew
that now
King.
with 3 or 4 people. It's always been successful. We're completely backwards. Yeah. We take a digital medium, a digital product, and we convert it into print.
I love that people are connecting with the tangible, physical books. And in many ways, it's just a better, more digestible way to read content, because online it's the same screen you're scrolling, you get the infinite scroll, and it all feels so bite-sized. And in a book, it feels substantial.
Yeah.
Let's go into the nitty-gritty. Something in your business that you do that's done the hard way, and you still choose to do it that way, and why?
We don't take any government money.
So as a publisher, you don't take
as
grants.
A Canadian publisher.
Yeah. Which there's money available. Here.
No, I shouldn't say it like that. We are rare. We're the exception. We're the exception. The majority of Canadian publishers will receive some sort of government assistance.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And sorry, let me back up. That's not completely fair. We do receive, now that I think about it, we do receive some sort of assistance in the form of a tax credit, which we apply for after we've already spent the money. Okay. And we do get a tax credit. There's other forms of funding available, Trillium funding, Canadian Book Fund funding. Most Canadian publishers do receive that. We have never applied for it. We've never received it.
Is that like a philosophical thing?
Yep. Somewhat.
You want to do it of your own accord, basically?
We don't want to be government bureaucrats. I'm from Ottawa. I've seen this trap. But I don't want to do it. So that's one thing that separates us.
And you still do that the hard way in terms of funding it yourself.
Yeah.
Is it costing you more to print books locally than, is there a cheaper option for you to, offshore it or import your book?
Yes, especially if we start doing coffee table books. And, that's another... not to be altruistic.
It says printed in Canada on your books, and that's uncommon.
Yeah. Yes, but not to be altruistic. There's business reasons. I'm sure you're in the business to realize this. It's not being completely altruistic. It's not community service. It's not charity to deal with local businesses. There are reasons for it. If there's a problem with the printing, I'm dealing with a local business.
Right.
If a store needs books, they're dealing with a local business. So, it's a local business. There's advantages to that.
Better communication,
better sales, more accountability, better customer service, ideally. It's just better all around. Better for you, better for the customer.
Keeps the money local.
So yes, we can get a better deal on printing slightly. Do I want to save $1? If there's somebody I need to contact, I can't contact. Right. No.
They're in a different time zone. Yeah.
Exactly. No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, really good answer there. Yeah. And on the flip side of that, we like to ask something called the
cost of convenience.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one thing would be the printing. We mentioned printing locally, but beyond that, what we're using is paper stock. We deal with some designers. One designer in particular would absolutely have our head if we used inferior paper stock or paper stock that's just one grade below. Paper stock, of course, there's various graduations of paper stock.
Yeah.
All sorts of graduations.
With your books too, they always have a quality feel to them.
It's the paper stock. It's a paper stock. It's a cover stock, whether it's a gloss cover, whether it's a matte cover.
Right.
We don't skimp out on paper. Some publishers do as a matter of course. And again, it's the same thing as like getting printed in Hong Kong as opposed to Pembroke, which is one of your options. That's an option. You save a couple pennies and, maybe, penny here, penny there. We're not going to save $100 on a print run by, cheaping out on the paper.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's a great answer, and it brings us to the end of our first segment. So we're going to take a little break here and regroup. But thanks for tuning in, watching. We'll be right back with Ron Corbett from Ottawa Press and Publishing. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're here with Ron Corbett from Ottawa Press and Publishing. Thanks for tuning in to Why Bother. Be sure to like and share and subscribe to our podcast so you can find out when we have new episodes. We're going to jump right back in with a fun fact about the publishing industry and the writing of books. Did you know 80% of Americans surveyed want to write a book? They say they want to write or publish a book, but as you know, 95% of books that are submitted to publishers are rejected. Walk us through, how this industry works, and lots of people want to have a book.
It's true. I didn't know the 95%
are
figure.
Rejected?
Yeah, I didn't know that figure was that high. 80%.
So you made it through. You're the top 5 percentile.
I got lucky.
But you were the publisher, so that's cheating.
I thought I wasn't.
No, Penguin published your other books.
Penguin published. But I also have a series going. I do have a series of mystery series going. You mentioned the mysteries just briefly, the Frank Yakabuski series, which was published by ECW Press out of Toronto. So I went through the writer submitting query letters. I went through the whole 9 yards.
And you got through. Again, that top 5%.
I did get through. I was lucky in that regard.
Do you get a lot of submissions at Ottawa Press and Publishing?
We get steady submissions, yes. We don't go out looking for submissions.
No, you curate your titles pretty.
We do. To a certain
proactively.
Degree, to a certain degree, we just discourage is too strong word, but we don't go out looking. We don't.
Well, you only have so much bandwidth to publish. You publish like
exactly
2 or 3 new books a year or something, right?
We publish about half a dozen.
Okay.
About half a dozen a year. This book, Adriana. Was a query letter, stone cold query letter. Adriana should be here to answer this question because she is a good example of somebody breaking through. She was persistent. We said no
with
to
her coffee table book.
We said no to Adriana so many times. It was like no.
She was persistent.
No again, okay. One more time. She was the definition of persistence. She tracked me down at a show we were doing at the outdoor show. So we had a booth. And it worked for her. She finally convinced me that, maybe it will work. Maybe a book about bridges will work. And I'm glad she's convinced me because I think it's a lovely book. And every person that's seen it, and this is an advanced copy that you're seeing, has really enjoyed the book. So I'm so glad she was persistent. You have to be persistent. You have to have a thick skin. And you definitely have to be prepared to be rejected. It's going to be somewhat miraculous if you write a book and submit it and you're accepted. That is not going to happen. So,
and did you experience some of that rejection yourself in your early writings? Early submissions? Or did you know right away, like, I need to get an agent? Did you kind of?
I did know that. Being a journalist, you're in the milieu, or you're right next door to it.
Yeah.
And you have people to help. Roy McGregor was a big help to me.
Who were some of your biggest supporters in writing, like growing up, or pushing you to get into this field, recognizing your talent?
Well, nobody pushed me to get in the field. That was my own crazy idea.
That was kind of them.
Journalism being the idea. That was my own crazy.
Cruel to push someone into a fickle field.
Yeah. But once I was in the field, people that supported me, Roy was a huge help and continues to be a huge help. He helped get the Penguin deal for The Last Guide.
So would you call him like a bit of a mentor then for you as a writer?
Mentor is a bit strong. He left for the National Post as soon as I got there. So I figured it was me. When I joined the Ottawa Citizen, he was there for about 6 months and then he left for the National Post.
Hey, at least he helped you get in. Awesome. You mentioned a bit of a checklist there. I don't know if you have any more particular advice for someone who's looking to get into writing and being published.
You just have to stay at it. It is luck. It's a horrible answer. It's luck. It is just
right place, right time.
Right place, right time. Stay at it. You got to finish it. It's funny. 80% of people your first stat, 80% say they want to write a book. I wonder how many people actually do finish the book.
Yeah, good point.
Hemingway was a journalist before he wrote his first novel.
I did not.
Yeah, worked for the Toronto Star.
Okay.
Worked for the Toronto Star.
Local connection.
But when his first book was published, New York Times interviewed him, and some New York Times journalist gave him a wonky interview. Mr. Hemingway, once you made the transition from journalism to literature, what did you find to be the most difficult part of that transition? And Hemingway said, finishing the fucking thing.
Because it's a lot longer than a column.
A lot longer than a column. So advice to aspiring writers, remember Hemingway, finish the flipping thing.
Okay.
So, you know what Faulkner's advice to aspiring writers was?
What?
Sharpen your pencil. True story. They hired him at University of Mississippi to teach creative writing. And that was his advice.
Sharpen your pencil.
Sharpen your pencil. And then he walked out.
And he probably got paid for a full semester.
No, he got fired.
Okay.
True story. Anyway.
And what is the meaning behind sharpen your pencil?
You just got to do it. You can't look for advice. You're going to do it. You're not going to do it. You're going to get lucky. You won't get lucky.
It sounds like you need to be a self-starter, basically.
You need to be stoic.
Self-motivated.
You need to be stoic. You need to have a thing for pain.
Right.
There you go.
Thick skin. You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people do start and don't finish a book. Do you have any unfinished material? Or do you call them drafts that might be finished later?
I have lots of unfinished material. Ragged Lake, the first novel in the Frank Yakabuski series, was an unfinished novel that one spring I finally decided to finish. And parts of that book, when I decided it's time to finish it, I've been kicking around in a drawer of my desk for probably 10 years.
Okay. Wow.
Easily 10 years.
Where do you go to write? Like, where are you most productive? I hear people being like, I need to be off the grid. I need to be in a cabin somewhere, nobody bothering me. Send me food under the door. What's your process?
It is somewhat like that. I'm trying to finish a novel right now. So actually because we like you and we like your store a lot, I'm here. I've dragged myself out of my basement and out of my sweat. I'm trying to finish.
I'm so sorry.
I'm trying to finish the next Yakabuski novel by the end of the month. But the answer is for me is 5 a.m. 5 a.m. in my study, which happens to be in the basement of my house. I love 5 a.m. The work I get done between 5 and 9 a.m.
Wow.
It still astonishes me how much I can. Up. Well, the world is leaving me alone. Yeah. The work I get done between. So I don't need to disappear for 2 weeks, but I need early in the morning. It's always worked. I don't even bother trying to write in the evening anymore. It's just, who am I kidding? It's just a waste of time.
Yeah, when you're most productive.
Yeah, so
I guess it's going to be different for each author, but find your sweet spot, I guess, is another piece of advice.
Yeah, for sure.
And make time for it when you're going to be, when your brain's working.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Do you still write like by pencil, pen, or are you all digital? Do you use a typewriter? Click clack. Come on.
Earl used to. Who was it? Cormac McCarthy used a typewriter. Do you know who Cormac McCarthy is?
Yeah, No Country for Old Men.
Cormac, right? Roy didn't.
Yeah.
Yes, No Country for Old Men, exactly.
Yeah.
He just died a few months ago.
Oh, wow, okay.
I'm a big
because that's not a really old book, but so he had access to computers. He was using a typewriter.
He was using a typewriter. Great Cormac McCarthy story. When somebody found out in 2007 that he was still using a typewriter, they said, and he had written every one of his novels on the same typewriter. They found out, so he said, "Oh my God, you should sell the thing." So
that's the first thing anybody says. Right? Yeah.
So he did.
Cash in, Cormac.
So he put it up for auction. It got, I think, what was the number? 400, about close to $500,000. The typewriter got. He donated the money to a food bank in Tennessee.
Wow.
Everything except $200. That he went out and he bought the exact same typewriter. He did.
Amazing.
He traded it in.
You can start over again.
So he gave $500,000. It shows you the absurdity of it.
Yeah.
No, I don't have a typewriter. I have a computer and I use a computer. I don't. Yeah, but no, I use computers, and computers are wonderful. I can't imagine writing without
or editing
without using a computer. How did you do that? I have no idea how that would have been done.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We're going to take a little break and then we'll be back for our final segment. Stay tuned for more with Ron Corbett from Ottawa Press and Publishing. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Why Bother? I'm your host, Gareth Davies, with Ron Corbett from Ottawa Press and Publishing. Thanks for your gracious time today. I know you're busy writing a book, finishing a book. We can't wait to hear more about that. And we're going to do some fun food sampling to kick off this last segment. We like to do this with our guests, give a little treat, little boost going down the stretch. You've selected a chocolate bar from our friends at Peace by Chocolate, which, you're a great storyteller. They have a phenomenal story.
You were telling me part of it. Tell me this story.
So this is a Syrian family.
Well, I have some chocolate.
Yeah, please enjoy. We're eating their milk chocolate with hazelnut thank you bar. And this family moved from Syria due to the war. They were refugees. They came to Canada. They had lost their family factory in Syria and they rebuilt it in Antigonish, Nova Scotia. Now they're the biggest employer in town. And they're all across the country.
They're the biggest employer in Antigonish.
They are.
That's a lovely story.
Yeah, really cool. They actually had a movie too. They've got a book out telling their story. So
there's a documentary done on it?
Yeah. It's just called Peace by Chocolate. Story. Yeah, exactly. So we watched that with some of our staff actually when it was in theaters. What do you think?
Something else? It's wonderful.
It's good, eh?
It's absolutely wonderful. It's salted, right? Is it a salted? It's wonderful.
Tasting a little bit. And one of our best-selling products in the store, because it's great chocolate, but people love that story. It makes a great gift. They brand their bars with messages like thank you or, congrats, happy birthday. Okay. Really easy gift. Yeah.
It tastes wonderful. Absolutely.
Thanks for trying it. So we've talked a lot about writing and books. We'd like to know more about you and your biggest hobbies outside of work.
I like traveling. I certainly do like traveling. The kids are all grown up now too, so you get a chance to do more of that.
Oh, yeah,
I like road trips. I absolutely love road trips. I've gone down to Florida the last couple of winters.
Okay.
Can I admit that? There was a time in my life when I thought I'd hate Florida.
Snowbird, driving down.
Not quite a snowbird yet. Just thinking about it.
Just for a visit. Okay.
I've avoided much of the winter, the last 2 winters. But road trips, my gosh, when the kids, that was our summer vacation for years and years and years. So I do love traveling.
How many kids do you have?
I have 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're busy with kids growing up.
I was.
Where did you like to go on
I certainly was.
road trips?
Well, we went through the States. We went out west. We did from coast to coast. Years and years ago, Avis Rental had a deal where it was $199 a week. You could get a minivan, unlimited mileage.
Okay.
I drove that minivan to the west side of Vancouver Island.
Get your
back
money's worth.
again.
Yeah.
$400 for last summer. They had that.
And then they canceled the deal because
last
of you
summer
guys.
they had that deal. I don't know if I'm responsible, but anyways, the last deal. So yeah, we did cross country. I remember one of my favorite columns at the Sun years ago was when I got back from that vacation.
Yeah.
I teased people for flying over, fly over provinces. They said, and I went on for a couple of days.
You're missing the prairies.
You're missing the thing. I had pierogi stories. I had the whole 9 yards.
Did you see the Northern Lights?
I did up in. I worked in Jasper for a couple of summers. So yeah, I've seen the Northern Lights.
Yeah, lots of
So I love traveling.
for your
Looking
writing
forward
too.
to doing more. Yeah.
We like to do something here we call
Point of connection.
This is all about human connection and how it relates to your work. So is there something there that inspires you to write or to publish books, or you're looking to connect with other people?
It's an interesting question for what we're doing with Ottawa Press and Publishing, because we're a local company. And when I was writing columns and when I had the radio show, it was all about local. I remember years and years ago, Hartley Stewart, the publisher I mentioned, who was at the Ottawa Sun, he wrote out a memo once. There was a newspaper just got out. He thought it was a horrible edition of the newspaper.
Wasn't happy with
it. And he wanted to impress upon everybody that worked for him that he wanted his newspaper to be relentlessly local. And that was the phrase, relentlessly local. And that's what Ottawa Press and Publishing is. We're a local publishing company. The books that sell well for us, well, it's all local. Our authors are local. They live here. Yeah. Our stories are local.
It's even printed locally.
It's printed locally. The business is local. It's all local. You're the only retail store that we sell our books in. Right. We sell only in bookstores. There's a few gift shops that we're in, but the gift shops are tourist shops and they have a big book section, right? Yeah. You're the only we're pretty much your only.
We
books.
don't have a ton of books. We have a very curated section.
Very curated. Yeah. You're our only retail store, and the reason our books sell in your store, I think, is for the same reason. You're successful because of the local connection, and it's everything. It's everything to our business. Maybe I'm assuming something more than I should with you, but
it's the DNA of Maker House as well. It's connecting makers with customers and even charities, community organizations.
Exactly. So, the connection, it has to be there when we're looking at a possible book project, and, that's quite often, the yay or nay of it when somebody's pitching the idea. Does this have a local audience? Is there a reason why somebody living in Ottawa will care about this story? And if the answer is no, we're not publishing it.
Yeah. Is it relevant? Will people relate? Will they see themselves in it?
Exactly. So there has to be that connection or we're not doing it.
Yeah. And you're, I'm guessing, floating your ideas to potential customers and your circle to identify if it's a fit, if it's going to go.
Exactly.
That's very cool. So what are you working on now, Ron? We've talked a little bit about your bridge book that's coming out mid-September, spanning time.
Well, this is fluky. If we just have a minute here, because it is kind of fluky, because we don't often have this.
For folks listening, we're flipping through the book, so be sure to check this out on YouTube.
Yeah, this is all done. So what we're working on now, this book is at the printers right now. We don't often get an advanced. It's called an advanced reading copy. If you are, want to get in the publishing business, you're pitching a query letter, use ARC. ARC, you capitalize it. Maybe you'll impress somebody.
Nice.
But we don't always get one. But this has just turned out to be a beautiful book. Adrienne, a bunch of photographers, Nico Peterson, one of the photographers, Tanya Snow, bunch of designers involved in this. I also have a novel. I've been working on this. This is out of the basement.
Yeah, show the camera. For folks who are watching.
Muskie Falls is going to be the fourth in the Frank Yakabuski series. The first three were by ECW. The fourth is going to be by Ottawa Press and Publishing.
So you're keeping the series alive.
Yeah, this will be out in mid-October.
It's like a
why don't you read a couple of the blurbs there on the
Sure. Okay. I'll do it my best
best radio
voice here. Okay, so it's a Frank Yakabuski mystery book, the fourth in the series Muskie Falls, and the quote here from a New York Times book review.
Is that the New York Times book review?
Unbelievable.
Oh my God. It says,
Corbett's work has garnered him an Edgar Award nomination, and we can see why. Oh my God, your head is inflating right in front of me. It's amazing. Well, it takes a lot of work to get in front of the New York Times.
Yeah.
And the next one here from the Globe and Mail says, Ron Corbett's excellent Frank Yakabuski series is a return to the bad old days when men killed for a glass of beer. Amazing.
That's going to be out in mid-October. So
wow, good for you. You're busy.
we have been busy.
A lot going on.
Yeah, we're going to have a busy fall, as you are. You're always busy. You have this is called log rolling. Remember the old Spy magazine? This is called log rolling in our time.
Okay.
You have a beautiful shop at Christmas time.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, we're starting to ramp up for the fall.
Make it sound insincere, but you do. It's just...
you're part of the mix with your amazing titles. And we still have them in the shop, from Ottawa Rewind to the new best hikes to the road trip books. Right? So people know they can find you at Maker House. They can find you at other
should I get the website?
Bookstores. Yeah. Let's plug. Where else can they find you online?
OttawaPressandPublishing.com.
All right. Keep an eye out on there for new titles launching. Thank you so much, Ron, for taking time out of your busy schedule, out of your basement. Hope we didn't cut into the writing time this morning too much, but you've been a great guest. Awesome having you on.
Gareth, I appreciate it very much. It's been fun.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, folks, to Why Bother? And keep an eye out for our next episode. Be sure to subscribe. We'll see you then. Bye.